This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Oil prices climbed on Wednesday as investors assessed the stability of a ceasefire between Iran and Israel, but held near multi-week lows on the prospect that crude oil flows would not be disrupted. Brent crude futures rose 85 cents, or 1.3%, to $67.99 a barrel at 0341 GMT, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate WTI crude gained 87 cents, or 1.4%, to $65.24. Brent settled on Tuesday at its lowest since June 10 and WTI since June 5, both before Israel launched a surprise attack on key Iranian military and nuclear facilities on June 13.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Tuesday that China can continue to purchase Iranian oil after Israel and Iran agreed to a ceasefire, a move that the White House clarified did not indicate a relaxation of U.S. sanctions. China can now continue to purchase oil from Iran. Hopefully, they will be purchasing plenty from the U.S. Also, Trump said in a post on Truth Social, just days after he ordered U.S. bombings of 3 Iranian nuclear sites. Trump was drawing attention to no attempts by Iran so far to close the Strait of Hormuz to oil tankers, as a closure would have been hard for China, the world's top importer of Iranian oil, a senior White House official told Reuters.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
U.S. regional electric grid operators scrambled to avoid rotating blackouts on Tuesday, preserving razor-thin power generation margins as temperatures in the eastern half of the country soared past 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 degrees Celsius. Jammed and overheated transmission lines caused congestion and lifted wholesale electricity prices in New York, the largest city in the United States, to nearly $2,400 per megawatt-hour, MWH, during peak evening demand. Wholesale prices in Long Island topped $7,000 per megawatt-hour. New York ISO, the state's grid operator, warned it may initiate emergency actions after operating reserves declined.
China is set to exceed its 2030 pumped storage hydropower target by more than 8% and potentially reach 130 gigawatts (GW) by the end of the decade, the International Hydropower Association (IHA) said on Wednesday. The world's second-largest economy added 7.75 gigawatts of pumped hydro in 2024, bringing its total installed pumped hydro capacity to 58.69 gigawatts, the IHA said in a statement. More than 200 gigawatts of such projects are under construction, it added, accounting for a third of all such projects under development globally. China has called for even more investment in the development of energy storage, which is critical to help balance supply and demand when wind and solar farms produce too much or too little renewable electricity for the grid's distribution system to be able to handle. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Prices of lithium carbonate futures in China climbed on Tuesday to hit their highest in nearly 2 weeks, supported by a wave of short covering, though a lingering supply surplus of the electric vehicle battery material remained a headwind. The most active lithium carbonate contract on the Guangzhou Futures Exchange closed daytime trade 3.06% higher at 60,700 yuan, $8,458.28 per metric ton, after touching the highest level since June 11 at 61,660 yuan per ton earlier in the session. The price rally today is mainly because some bears liquidated part of their positions amid market talks pointing to improving fundamentals, said Chen Zheng, a Beijing-based analyst at Galaxy Futures, adding that in reality, fundamentals have not yet seen big changes.
The British government is set to impose tougher than expected trade caps on steel, limiting imports from Vietnam, South Korea and Algeria to better defend its domestic supply from the fallout of a global trade war. Britain has been trying to shield its domestic industry from a global oversupply of steel, and has taken several measures to support it, including negotiating the removal of US tariffs, yet to fully take effect, and taking control of British steel to prevent it from shutting down. But the global upheaval to trade from Trump's tariffs and the precarious state of the steel sector has led to increased scrutiny of Britain's own trade defense regime.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
A shaky ceasefire between Iran and Israel on Tuesday knocked down crop prices around the world, particularly crops that can be used for biofuels whose prices shift with the price of crude oil. Futures contracts for vegetable oils and veg oil stocks like Malaysian palm oil, European rapeseed, Canadian canola and Chicago soy oil fell sharply, hit as crude oil prices slumped due to the ceasefire announced by US President Donald Trump. It's totally connected, said Winnipeg, Canada crop markets analyst John Duveneau about the decline in vegetable oil crop prices as crude oil futures tanked on Monday and Tuesday, falling over 13% by midday Tuesday.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.